now we can move on to another letter. Let's see, so we've got 1, 2, 3.5. If we get 1.5 more of these done in one day, that'll be tremendous. Maybe able to even drive on to maybe the letter T here. So I got to look at my flag chart here, and it shows me, oh yeah, okay, so letter A here, which although it appears to be black in this printing is actually blue. No, we already did it once up here and here, and strangely it's one above the other again. So that seems to be a repeating pattern in this project, at least this particular message, and that happens sometimes. It's funny. You wouldn't think you would have so many letters falling into the same kind of grid sequence, but it happens. Okay, so once I've got that erased, I can dust it off of there, and it will be covered with blue, and so I don't have to be quite so aggressive about the erasing, but it's better to have it erased out than it is to try to unmess it up later. Okay, so back to blue again. Looks like I got plenty of blue here, so it's funny though that it's one right above the other. This keeps happening in this particular project. Alright, so I've noticed that seems like I'm getting better at the coloring, at least the speed at which I can get it done, and the opacity, which is a requirement. So we will be grading this artwork at some point in time, and there's a lot of self-grading that goes along with it, and so I'm going to have a brief video that will explain to you how the grading is done. You'll have to make your own grading sheet. Since this is an art class, I'll show you how to do that too. And so when this is all finished, I would encourage you to take a photograph of it, a good photograph that fills up, the entire picture frame. So if you were to print it, for instance, it would take up a whole piece of paper. So you've got to really kind of zoom in on it if you're going to take a photograph of it. And then once you have your photograph taken, you can email that to me as an attachment, just like some of you have done with some of your other work, quizzes and such. So we're going to simply attempt to, conduct this class, even though it is what I guess we'd call distance learning, or an e-lesson, or a virtual lesson, if you want to call it that as well. The same as it would be done if you were in the actual physical classroom. At some point, there will all be in a physical classroom, and I would like to be able to produce the work and get through the lessons, and it would be very similar to exactly what we're doing right now. So a lot of times it seems like we never stop taking notes, when in reality that's just a few days. And other times it seems like we never stop coloring, and that may be true too, but that's what we're in here for, is to make projects, and it can take, it can take a long time sometimes to make projects, and if we're only working for 10 days on a project, well, that makes our quarter go by very quickly, and we get 3 good projects in before the end of the grading period. That's a really tremendous achievement, and plus all of the rest of the learning that has to take place on how to grade it, the notes and the lectures on what we're actually doing. It's important to know what we're doing before we begin on projects. So we have to have some reflection on history, and we've got to be able to go back and see how these ideas that we use developed, and who was responsible for a lot of those ideas. And so by having historical context, it's very much more easily understood why we do what we do in classes, and why the projects we make and the exercises that we conduct in drawing unit, and also in painting unit. These are all parts of the visual arts education, and they're like tools in a toolbox, and you can take those tools. Once you've got the proper tools and you know how to use them, you can take that tool and you can make really good products with it, as if you were a carpenter or a cabinet maker, or some fine furniture craftsman. So these individuals, there's a reason that they are highly sought after, because they have a very well-developed craft and a skill. And that's what we're just trying to do in the course of 9 weeks, is appreciate what it takes to create and have a good skill, and use that skill to communicate with people. Okay, I've got to sharpen up that blue again. It seems like we've been using a lot of blue. Alright, so my goal as the art teacher is simply to try to get you to focus on your work, and if you're listening to me talking at the same time that you're coloring, you might be picking up some advice that will help you not just in distance learning and in life, but also in making your own artwork someday. So, trying not to get that pattern that I always get, because my strike marks always tend to go in the same direction, and so I have to fight that urge to continuously do that. And so I have to, strangely, I have to think about how I color in order to not get that pattern that develops all the time, because I don't think it looks that good. And so I know that, and even though I know that, sometimes I have a tendency to get sloppy with my habits and fall back into a bad habit of coloring everything in the same direction. So I really need to focus on that on my own work. Now, I am trying to go quickly, but I'm also trying to go quickly at a pace that will give me quality work, even though it may seem like I am really working fast. And some people can work really, really fast like this. Other people, it takes them a long time to do anything that's really good. So I guess that's the difference between people who are trained and experienced and have some wisdom about their work, and people that are simply still learning. So I've been lucky. I've had some good art teachers. I know some good art teachers. And I know some fantastic artists. And I've had some students over the years that really, really went on to much bigger things. This is looking fantastic. Now, it's like exciting. We get to try to use some black. We haven't done that in a while. I remember when we first started, all of this area up here was all black, and it just was wearing me down. Now the black colored pencil is the longest one on the tabletop right now. So let's give it a little bit of attention, and then I think we'll go on to the letter T, and that will be enough for one day, or at least for now. One day or however long it's been. Alright, but progress is being made, and so I'm pleased with our progress. If you're keeping up with me, you're doing a tremendous job. If you get this much done in this particular part of this instruction, then even if it took you a little bit more time, you can always pause the video or back it up if you didn't catch something about how we're doing the project, or about how the coloring is done, or how the drawing itself was done. And you'd have to back way up in the video for that one, because for the last few times we've been together here, it's been almost all coloring, and a lot of talking. So you get a chance to think, and a lot of what I'm explaining to you all is just things that I have learned, and I am encountering the same issues a lot of the students do by making the project right along with you in this manner. And so by doing that, it kind of triggers some of my questions and concerns about you know, how do I have to think my way through this? And so it's helping me a great deal too, because I'm encountering, I guess, the same problems that the students encounter when they do this project independently. And so when you're in a physical classroom, it's much easier to address people's questions and look at their actual artwork and tell them what it is that you think they need to do to it, because it's so much easier just to see the artwork. As you know, as a teacher, I circulate around the room frequently, and or students will approach me at the desk and will ask for my advice or guidance on a piece of artwork, and that happens a lot more easily than you know, trying to do that electronically or through email. So that looks great. So look, we've gone 1, 2, 3 and a half, 4 and a half if we don't include the white, which we will go back and take care of here eventually. So I'm going to say let's switch over to the letter U, because this, well, maybe not. Maybe we should give this letter T some attention. It's not, it's been sitting there all this time minding its own business and not bothering anybody, and I believe it's simply red, white, and blue. So let's look at our page right here, and it would be the letter Tango right there, and it is indeed red on the left, blue on the right. So white in the middle, red on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and tag that red. I'm going to go ahead and tag this blue, and that was a good start there. So I think we may be able to finish this, and then we will have made tremendous progress, and we will be very close to the finish line in the next coloring session here, and we may be able to bring it to a conclusion and wrap it all up and think about how we're going to go about grading this. So we will see here, but this is looking pretty good for the 6th grade project. It's come together faster than I had anticipated. Okay, we're back to red. Looks like I'm going to have to sharpen that red. It's getting used up. Still got plenty of black though. Okay, about 3 or 4 good twists, good working point, see, not so sharp that I can't, I'll snap it off, and then just get working. By now, I'm starting to get pretty good at this. Now here I am coloring again in the same direction, something I keep telling myself not to do, so I have to change the strike of my markings here so that they go in different directions and I get a more uniform finish to it, instead of overlapping strike marks that are very, very visible. And that also is an issue when you paint things as well. Those stroke marks that you leave behind with the paintbrush sometimes are very attractive, but they can also be very distracting, scribbly, if you're not careful, or they overlap in such a manner that causes people not to be able to, you know, follow along with your painting and direct their eye to what it is you're trying to get them to pay attention to. Same with drawings, and so, you know, if you're trying to, if your goal is to get that nice, smooth, uniform appearance, then you do have to vary the strike marks. I mean, consciously, you have to think about it, and that doesn't come natural for a lot of people. Plus, they perceive it as being less controlled, and hey, nobody appreciates, you know, good control like I do, and I approve of that. However, when, you know, it's a low risk operation, like in the middle of the area that you're coloring in, you can kind of just, you know, really make those random overlapping scribble marks, and it will smooth out the appearance of the entire area that you are coloring in. Now I need to sharpen again. I think actually that random scribbling approach uses up colored pencils faster, but it looks good, so if that's the way it works, okay, we're going to keep at it here after a quick sharpen pit stop. So I'm wondering out there, and you all could make some comments if you feel the need to at the bottom of the video here, about whether you're getting writer's cramp, your hand is cramping up from all this intensive coloring. If your eyes are starting to kind of do strange things from staring at this super saturated colors that we're making here, that'd be a good place to comment on this and on how much progress you're making. You can always, join the conversation at the Google Classroom too, for Warner Middle School Visual Art. A lot of people have been interacting on that forum and been able to get information out to people so that they can follow along with these lessons. And like I said, I'm simply trying to conduct the class the same as it would be as if you were in the classroom with me. So when we do all return, or if you when you are back in school yourself, if you come back into art, then you'll be able to catch up pretty much right where we left off, and there won't be that much unlearning that has to happen. We will have nothing but good learning from there on out. So I believe art is one of these subjects that probably is best taught in person, although this can work also. And I'm learning a lot myself just by making the videos, and I'm in a very well lit environment, and so these colors appear very, very vivid to me. On the video they may not come across quite as vividly. However, I'll tell you what, this is when you're staring at straight up red and pure yellow, it can affect your color vision there for a little while and your focus. So you got to take a break periodically and let your eyes rest. Just like if you were in music, you have to you get ear fatigue, so you would have to stop and take a break periodically, or you wouldn't be able to hear properly. You wouldn't hear the music as it was meant to be, is what I'm saying. You would hear it in kind of a distorted way. So when your vision starts getting a little bit strange from staring at super saturated colors or, intent focus on something, then it's probably time to take a brief break. And speaking of that, we're going to get this last piece of blue put in there, and that is going to be a good work day, or work session. We'll just call it a session. So put down red for now, and we're starting to use up blue. It's starting to get used up, and we're looking at a letter E coming up here too soon, so that will also use more of the blue up. So you've got to be careful when you sharpen it. It'll get a good working point, but not enough to snap it all off so that we waste our colored pencil. So here we go. This will be probably the last thing for this particular work session here, but we'll see. Some people work faster than others, and here I am again doing exactly what I said I wasn't going to do, which is, now there we go. So I'm focusing on getting all my stroke marks and my strikes in my colored pencil here to go in more than one direction. It colors in better that way. And I'm coloring on a hard wooden surface that's pretty smooth, and so as a result of that, it also gives me a nice opaque finish to what I'm working on, and I'm able to get it very smooth. If you're working on a surface that's got a texture of some sort behind it, you'll probably end up seeing that texture appear in the drawing as you color over top of it. So you need to try to find as smooth a surface as possible to work on, and a nice solid surface too. If you're trying to do this on a soft, like a folder or cardboard or something, you'll notice that it's got a very different feel to the way the pencil works and makes the marks. So at the physical classroom, our tabletops have got smooth tops on them, and that allows you to put that drawing or that piece of design work right against that tabletop, and it colors dark and attractively and opaquely. So we're making some progress here, although we're using that poor blue colored pencil up it won't be around for the next project, so I'll have to use different colors instead of blue. And since blue is Xenia's school color, a lot of times kids tend to use it on subsequent drawings, and so it gets used up a lot anyway. So you may have to just alter what you think you're going to do in the future to not necessarily include this royal blue color, but we've got other blues. The 7th and the 8th graders use a sky blue and also a light blue that's kind of like North Carolina blue. I could have sharpened this pencil again. And now I think that's going to be a great day of production. And we're going to get pretty close to the finish line in the next session here. So it tends to work out in most classes, especially in the physical classroom, that once every individual, I mean people that were missing class and stuff too, once they are all on the task of coloring, that's when the most production gets done in the whole classroom. So on days like that, when everybody has been caught up and the drawings are all complete and all the absentees, catch-up work has been addressed, and everybody is on task at the same time doing the same thing. And we make tremendous progress when we're doing that. But there's a lot of interruptions in a physical classroom that we don't necessarily have here. So that's one of the advantages of, I guess, what we call distance learning or virtual classrooms, or e-learning, in the case of what we're doing here, I suppose, or if you're making this project up on your own, in fact. Well, that looks pretty good, and that colored in pretty quickly, even though I had to make a quick pit stop to sharpen the pencil. Dressing it all up there. This looks fantastic. So I'm going to bet then a couple more sessions like this one, this project will be done and pretty much ready for grading. So, get those last few specks of white showing through there dealt with. There we go. And just like in class, you know, at some point in time, we would have to pack it up and get ready to go to another class in the physical classroom. So that's looks pretty good. We'll keep at it. We'll finish it before too long. Well, we're going to keep on keeping on. Another session here, and before long we'll have this project ready to detail out, and also to work on some of the whites and sign it, and it will be ready for grading here. Probably in a couple more sessions, I predict. So it looks like here we are with letter E again, and the letter U and A. So you know, I'd like to skip down here just to see, you know, do something different for a change. However, I'm also kind of interested in just finishing out this entire row, and that would make me feel a lot better. So I guess that's where I'm going to go next, is just to finish out that entire row. So having done that, then I'm going to lay my stuff down here for a moment. My colored pencil there, maybe I'll move it off the side, because I have to erase the letter E out of the box I'm working in at the moment here, and I'm getting this flashing effect here I'm not really crazy about, and I think it's got to do with, well, we'll just have to work gently and try to avoid it as much as possible. Okay, now there we go. Now I'm getting it to come loose. So sometimes you just got to be patient. It takes a little while. In fact, that little dot right there that's from way back when we first started laying our paper out is kind of messing with me. So I'm going to hold this down so I can erase it carefully. Not snag any of that red. That ought to be enough, since it is blue. Okay, well, back to the blue. It looks like I've still got a good working point on that blue anyway, so I'll just keep at it. cover this up and get color in here. I have to work on that.